Hello, everyone. Hi, can you guys just let me know? I'm going to take my earrings off. Earrings are coming off. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Just let me know that you can hear me. This is on Instagram Live. And I'm excited. Really excited. Waiting for Jason to join. We have so much to talk about, and it's always fun when we talk about galactic beings, ETs, disclosure, false flags. And there's no better time than right now. Okay, let's pull Jason up. Let's pull him in.
Hi.
Hi. You're going to go settle in?
Yeah, I just went to fill up some water.
Fabulous.
Okay. All right, we're here.
You sound good. We're here. So welcome, everyone. Settle in. We got a fun ride to go on this afternoon, this evening, this morning, wherever you are. We'll be uploading this to YouTube. So for those of you that have to go or, miss it, it'll be on YouTube.
Yep.
Okay, so we're just going to dive right in. So welcome, everyone. This subject came in for me a couple of days ago. I'll give you my reason for doing this, and then I'll let Jason give his reason for doing this. So I was shown by my guides that there's going to be a possible timeline that we're going down with regards to all the different types of ETs, higher dimensional light beings, aliens, galactic beings, whatever you want to call it. There's an infinite amount of these consciousnesses that have always been participating with the earth plane and the human body. And we ourselves, of course, are consciousness. We're not human. And so what's happening as the vibration of the planet is raising, the human body is raising, we're starting to become aware of it more and more. We're starting to discuss it more and more. And we're starting to be aware of, like, wait, did the CIA know about this? Wait, did the government know about this? Wait, what else have we, what, right? And the more we wake up to this, the more there may be other agendas at play prior to us really connecting to them. So I want to talk today with Jason about how to decipher the information that's coming in. Is there another alternate agenda that may be being played out, and why is that? Is there going to be some sort of divide amongst the community, sort of like COVID, right, where there's a lot of confusion being created, and if so, why? And anything else that kind of comes in. Because what my guide showed me is that there is a timeline where there's going to be a mass amount of confusion, a possible false flag creating a huge amount of fear when these beings come in, and for the sole purpose of disconnecting us from these higher dimensional beings. And what does that look like? Why would they do that? And, we've already gone through COVID, so we know what this divide looks like. But we're already, at least for myself, I'm already seeing a massive divide beginning in the spiritual community. This person said this, then this person said this person said this, and so what is this? Like, what's going on? So that's my intention, is to really start talking about it, bringing it out in the open, because like you and I said, Jason, the more we can talk about this, the more we can bring it out in the open, the more we can make it like mainstream normal talk and not this like secret thing that you have to be like a higher dimensional spiritual person to understand, the easier we'll be able to navigate it. So, so that's my intention.
Cool. Thank you, first of all, everybody, for tuning in. I'd like to start with one thing based on what you said, Lori. And it's something that I usually add at the end of some videos I do, either in text or through saying it. And it's a phrase that goes along the lines of, divided we fall, united we fly. And it's 100% true. When we come together, we even see it in nature. The smallest insect when they want to veer off a predator that's 100 times their size, they come together and nothing can take them down. And part of my intention of really talking about this and bringing awareness to what we're going to be speaking about is to further unite, to give us this power and to bring our power together so we can be all of those little ants that come together to make a giant in the right direction with the efforts and the reality that we want to see manifest, sort of, and evolve out of where we're at today. So first of all, I'd like to say that I'm really excited to do this show particularly because it's a little different from a lot of the things that we've covered together and I've covered it on an individual level. And, you know, this whole thing on my end started with the pyramid code, and there was extraterrestrial involvement and all of that, but the focus was never there. And this month has been a really special and sort of unique month because there were so many like synchronicities in terms of just everything extraterrestrial starting to come out, whether it's true or not true, whether it's certain events that people think are associated with it, like those metallic monoliths, or that Israeli head of, I forgot what the organization was called, but a credible individual coming out and giving certain information. So anyways, my main intention of doing this now is to bring awareness to certain sort of realities and information that I've been given and Lori's been given from different sources in regards to extraterrestrial life. Who are these beings? What are their intentions? Why are they here? And why now? Why are we experiencing this right now? And really, how is moving forward going to look? And the reason why I say awareness, or I believe awareness is so important, is because we look at COVID. COVID would have never have been able to be sold to us if we were aware of certain things. And if we're not aware of the reality behind who these ETs are, what their intentions are, and everything in that nature, then we can be really misguided into thinking certain things about them that may not be true. So a real sort of the intention that I want to set here is to shed light on certain topics, to bring certain information, both from Lori's sources and my sources, and to bring that all together to create a sort of bigger picture of what's going on here and how can we be guided in really an appropriate way, not a misguided way, but a way where instead of just hearing people say something, including Lori and I, you critically think for yourself. Don't just listen to authorities. We're not authorities. We're just two individuals with two perspectives speaking on this topic. And that's an important thing to just keep in mind. That's something that I want to set. Lori, forgive me. I have to press the button on the lights because it's on a timer and I'm about to be in the dark. 1 second.
Okay. I also want to say regarding, you know, when you guys, when you're in a spiritual community that a lot of us are in, it's like this channeler said this channeler said this channeler said this, right? And what I've noticed the last week, and this is why my guides are like, you got to start to talk about this, is there's going to become more of a massive divide being created. And so nobody knows the absolute truth. Nobody knows the absolute truth. Mm-hmm. And if you have somebody that says this is the absolute truth, you'll kind of want to sit back and say, wait a second. There is no absolute truth other than the fact that we are consciousness. And even that might not be an absolute truth, right? So when we start talking about things that we can't necessarily physically see yet, although there are stories that may come out about that, right? A lot of us may not physically have anything to say is happening. You want to understand that you just can't, you have to be able to hold everything, or at least allow for everything to be possible, because then you'll get through all of this a lot easier. So I just want to say that as well.
And also, this is the reason why I love this so much, is because it's a mixture. It's not just channeling. It's not just physical experiences. It's a combination of the two, which is awesome. So Lori, as you all know, Lori is a channeler. She gets a lot of her information through ways that I don't fully understand, and that's not my expertise. I get my information from other sources that are physical, like TLS, which is an organization. For any of those who don't know what that is, I've made videos about that in the past. They're referred to as the light system. Just a short little intro of who they are and what they do. They're a global organization made of roughly 7,000 individuals, initiated agents. Not, and this is the fun part, not all agents are human beings. And when I say not human beings, I'm not referring to high vibrational, non-physical individuals. We're talking about physical extraterrestrial beings. Some are short, some are tall, some look like us, some do not resemble us at all. Their technology is unbelievable. And that's part of what we're going to share here. I'm getting the chills talking about it. It's fun. This is fun, and it's going to a good direction. But this is part of what we're sharing here for everybody to understand where this is coming from so we could go in the right direction moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking about having this conversation, what excited me the most about it is that our balance that we have, because there are higher dimensional light beings that are present and that are showing themselves and that are guiding us and loving us and like cheering us on and all these other things, right? And apparently, unbeknownst to me, until I started really talking with you, there are these beings that are here now, physically walking around like the earth plane, and like
It's amazing.
it's amazing. I'm like, what? There are? Like, what do you mean? And Jason's information is an actual, like, it's real. It's from them. It's not, this isn't something he's reading.
We're talking physical experiences, off-planet experiences, on-planet experiences with certain technology.
Right, but you're not reading this. You're not, this is you, this is
this is firsthand, from firsthand experiences in terms of directly from the man who first approached me. We refer to him as Ray because he doesn't want to really come out into the public. So his pseudonym is Ray. That's what we'll call him. But I mean, he's the man that first approached me when this all started in June of 2018. And incredible things have happened since. So yeah, let's dive in. Let's do this. Where do we start?
I don't even know. Well, I think one of the things that we can begin, like one avenue that we can go into is as we start navigating the now moments. First of all, let's do this. Why are they here? Let's just go to like elementary, right? Why are they here? What are they doing with us? And how do we know that we're safe? A lot of us on this call know we're safe, but let's play devil's advocate, right?
Sure. Okay, so I'm going to start a step before that, and I'll share the physical aspect of certain things, which will be an obvious why are they here, but we'll cover that anyways. But I think before we go to why are they here, let's first understand who they are. You know what I mean?
Good. Yeah, that's good.
Or we'll be like, oh, well, this is why they must be here.
Yeah.
So I'll start with certain physical information and just chime in whenever, and you give, because I know we always have these conversations, and they're one of the conversations that I have fun with the most. So I'm excited to do this now. Alrighty, so in regards to information that I've been given from firsthand experiences and all of that, when it comes to extraterrestrial specifically, and this is actually the first time I'm going to be sharing this publicly, so alrighty. I know of 3 extraterrestrial physical beings that live off planet that work directly with TLS. We're going to cover their names anywhere from, I'll make another video to go really in detail about them because that goes for a long time, but just a kind of big picture idea of who these beings are. And there are many beings in the universe, probably an infinite number. I have no idea. I'm just speaking of 3. It might give a little sort of preview and snapshot into what this looks like and who these beings are. There's Nashia, there's Konom, and there's Sia. There's 3 different races. None of them are in the Milky Way galaxy, physically located in the Milky Way galaxy. They live on their own planets. Some are dry planets, some are more wet planets, some have only fruits, others only have vegetables. Some are 9 feet tall, some are 3 feet tall, some look like us, and some don't. But they all have something in common. And what they have in common is the fact that they all possess a very high vibrational level of awareness. What we may call fifth dimensional awareness or even higher. Part of the way that they get here in the first place, by the way, is through really like transcending the limitations of time and space. That's how their technology works. Now, before we even get to that, I'll cover on their planets, there is no war. There is no disease. There's no police force or government. There's none of that. Because the idea of killing somebody else or having more than somebody else, the idea of corruption and greed, all of these concepts that we experience day to day on Earth, they're not in resonance with them. All of these different concepts are different frequencies. They're foreign concepts to them. They don't understand what that even looks like because they're not there. They don't need laws telling them don't murder, don't steal, don't kill, don't rape. They don't need that because it's not something that would ever happen where they live.
I want to interrupt you for a second.
Please.
That concept is about physics. That is not a choice. Okay, meaning when you are vibrating at a specific frequency, 5D consciousness, 6D consciousness, or whatever you want to call it, it's not a choice. I mean, it is always a choice because you're free will. So you can always choose what resonance you want to be in. But when you choose a resonance, there is a spectrum of consciousness that you have the ability to experience yourself in. And when you start raising above the third and fourth dimensional fields or other names you want to call it, war doesn't exist. So it's not available in that consciousness. So this is physics. This is really important to start to understand because there's a lot of information about beings that are creating wars. And you have to understand when you start talking about just energy, you're in a third dimensional realm, right? And so we're trying to understand these beings from a third dimensional dualistic polarity perspective. And so we're assuming that that they are going to be somewhat similar to us. And it's almost impossible for us to understand how they exist when we don't have that ability yet. We don't know what that means that you can't access that stuff. So we have to start to, or I encourage us to start to look at this through the eyes of physics and energy, right?
It's again, because it's so important, I'll say it differently in case somebody may understand it differently. We're talking energetic laws. It's how energy works. If I always give the example of a radio. It's like if you're on channel 5, if they're on channel 5 and we're on channel 3, whenever I give the idea that, hey, we experience war, we experience greed, but we will transcend that one day when we raise our collective vibration, I'm generally faced with a comment for the most part of, no, that's just a part of human nature. And no, it's not a part of human nature. It's part of channel 3.
Yeah.
When we change to channel 4, channel 5, channel 6, anything that isn't in resonance with what we're in resonance today, we will experience different realities because our reality is not dictated by human nature. It's dictated by the resonance that we exist. It's not about human nature. Human nature is limitless. Just like we have the ability to have a war, we also have the ability to levitate and have peace. It's just different vibrations that we can be in resonance with.
It's like an elevator. If you get off on the fifth dimensional floor, that's the experiences you're going to have, all those different offices, right? Now, can you go back to 3D? Sure. If you want to go back to 3D and experience war and all that stuff, you can bring yourself back down to that resonance and into that office space. But when you are in that frequency, you're in that frequency. And when you're in that frequency, you don't tap into anything below that frequency. And it's all frequency. War is a frequency. Evil is a frequency, and it's a very low frequency. So that is that's the way physics. That's energy. That is.
Okay, so that's good because we got like the sort of picture painted out of that. Now, a few things that kind of like piggyback off of that, which I just think are interesting.
Yeah.
For example, animals. Okay, let's start with this. those three races that we were speaking about, Sia, Konom, and Nashia, Ray has physically been there on certain either training or certain things that he was doing with TLS. Now, for anybody that's under the assumption, and we're talking like billions of light years away. So for anybody that's under the assumption that it's impossible to get there because billions of light years away is something that takes a long time to get to, again, in their level of awareness, especially when it comes to certain training that Ray had to go through and the people that were bringing him, people and beings that were bringing him to these off planets to experience certain things throughout his training, time and space are not limitations. They're limitations in our level of experience right now. So to explain how that works shortly, and we did this once, Lori, on a different live that we were speaking on, but I think everybody will enjoy this one. When it comes to their technology, so you understand how it works, there's the speed of sound, there's the speed of light, and then there's thought. The only thing that's faster than the speed of light, which is what we think is the fastest thing in the universe, is not, it's thought. And part of how their crafts work is through what they call the power of thought. So in order to transcend the limitations of time and space, the consciousness of the operator must first transcend the limitations of time and space. At that point, what happens next is the craft literally becomes an extension of their consciousness, and they're able to do things that we think in our idea of physics is impossible, like going 100,000 miles an hour and making a 90-degree turn and not combusting into flames. So we're talking about two different levels of understanding here. One that we don't fully comprehend in our sort of mainstream collective understanding, and one that's way beyond ours. So now that that's kind of the foundation is laid out, maybe we can go into the whole evil aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I think let me give you a little description of my experience with these beings, because it's very different than your experience.
Okay.
So my experience with these higher dimensional light beings is that I experience much higher dimensional light beings than TLS. I believe. They're seventh, they're eighth, they're ninth, they're 10th. And when I say 10th, these dimensional beings, they're light and they're light forms, right? They're not very physical. And many of us are those beings in this physical form. And these are the beings that I believe are the ones that are sort of behind the scenes, making sure that everything is playing out divinely. And they're the ones that I believe that our governments have been in contact with these beings, even though they are much higher dimensional beings. I believe that our governments have seen these beings. I believe that our government has seen the beings that you're talking about. I believe that this is nothing new to our governments around the world. This is nothing new to the CIA. This is nothing new. And so what I think is important to talk about is, it may be new to a lot of the humans, but just like COVID, okay, there's a lot of information from behind the scenes that has been in play for a very long time. And so these governmental systems and they were ready for what their agenda was with COVID. I see it very similar to what's happening right now with these ETs and higher dimensional light beings. They know what's coming. So they know that we're waking up. They know
talking about the governments.
The governments.
Or the people in power. Whoever.
The elites, the ones that are in power around the entire world.
Okay.
Maybe even the New World Order we will throw out there. They are acutely aware. Yeah. They are acutely aware of what's happening. They know that there's going to be another now moment where we're going to start to engage with these beings. It's an absolute, it's inevitable, it's going to happen. So my understanding of what my guides showed me is that there's a possibility that they're going to create a fear or a false flag first of all, this is what I think, and then you're going to talk about the evil piece.
Sure.
Okay, so what I think is going to happen is there's going to be this beautiful narcissistic abusive relationship again that's going to form, okay? Which means that the media is going to say, hey, look at this. Look at this alien stuff. Look at the monoliths. Look at this. Look at that. And we're going to be like, oh my God, they're finally giving us this information. We must be ready for this information. We're so good. We're being such good people because now we're able to actually validate everything that we already know is our truth, as if the mainstream media is our validator, right? Like, oh my God, we must be doing so well. The mainstream media is now telling us, like, what? Go screw yourself. So this is this really abusive relationship that we've been in. So here they are giving us all this great stuff, and we're like, oh my God, are they going to give us more? Like, we need them to give us this information, right? Mm-hmm. And what's going to happen is perhaps, possibly, very possible, is there's going to be an event that's going to happen that the governmental systems, the New World Order, whoever is going to create, and it's going to be a chaotic, catastrophic, fear-based experience around aliens and ETs, so that it scares the crap out of the human, and so that the human no longer wants to believe, trust, or experience what is innately coming for us. Mm-hmm. And so that is what I think is we are stepping into. And I think we have to be acutely aware of evil and dark, and that is not happening, and how to really decipher between the divide that may occur if this unravels.
I couldn't agree more with you. I would even say, to further your point, that what you just said has happened in the past. And it's not far-fetched to think that it's going to happen now. Every time certain information, certain knowledge, certain experiences that we were getting closer to experience that really revealed our true power, anytime we got closer to any of that, we have always been taught to stay away from it by these elites or these people in power or authorities, turning it around and saying, hey, that's bad for you. We saw it in the Vatican a few hundred years ago, when any books that had to do with divine knowledge or spirituality were burnt. And what did they say? They said, no, this is for the protection of the people. It's for the protection of the people because that's dangerous information. And the people said, okay. And today we experience the same thing. It's just not physical book burning. It's digital information burning by censorship. They did it to me with the COVID video. They just take it down and they say, this is dangerous information because it's false. And wait, I forgot the moment that YouTube turned into become a more credible doctor than a world-renowned doctor that was speaking, that has had 30 years of clinical trials, 30 years of clinical experience. So this has always been happening, where we get closer to something that's going to bring us up consciously, that's going to open ourselves up on the collective level to see our true power and to reveal our true power, either through help from others or from within. And every time it's made, or we're taught to be misguided, or we're taught that these are bad for us. So that's why I said in the beginning of this video, in the beginning of this show, part of my intention is to make sure that what happened with COVID doesn't happen with this. Because the only reason somebody can tell us, the only reason somebody can get away with telling us something is bad that's actually good for us, is if we're misinformed and not aware from the beginning. And the purpose of doing this really on my end is to make people aware of the energetic laws of what's going on from physical experiences and certain things that are going on with TLS as well, and what they're affiliated with, and certain beings that work with them, to show, hey, we might be going down a timeline now that we're getting into that may be much closer to us seeing these beings and experiencing them on the collective level. And the closer we get to that, because if we do come in contact on the collective level, as in public, with these beings, we will gain a much higher level of technology, a much higher level of awareness. Humanity will change. And
significantly fast.
Yes, the closer we get to that possibility, I would say the more divide, or at least the more effort to divide we're going to see, because divided we fall, united we fly. They want to keep us weak. And if we know what's going on, if we remain in our power with this knowledge and knowingness from within, even if you haven't seen them, you can understand it because it makes sense. Then nobody can sell us a story that these beings are coming to perpetrate wars and kill us. Because if they were, they would have done it a long time ago. If they were, when we shot them down with our weapons, or at least tried, they would have shot us down first and wiped us out, especially if they have the technology that we're speaking of here. So
I also think that there's a massive paradigm shift that's about to happen with ETs and aliens, and what I mean by that is it is going to become more real. It's going to become more of our. It's not going to be based on somebody's experience, somebody's channeling, somebody's etheric travel. It's going to start to become real, and we're going to start to have to discern. I mean, look at the monoliths, right? Not the same thing as seeing aliens, but we're going to have to start discerning. We're going to have to learn what discernment means, and not just listen and follow and be programmed by whatever someone tells us. Because if we want to be smarter than the programmers that are programming us, right? If we want to be smarter than them, we have to think for ourselves, and we have to be critically and analyzing things, and we have to be 7 steps ahead. And why am I even saying this? Why am I even wasting my time on this? Because I'm hoping that by having this conversation, we can pull the collective through a massively waste of time timeline that can create a waste of time of chaos, confusion, divide. Like, let's pass that timeline with the ETs and let's just jump right into being with them, right? Let's not let the powers that be pull us down. Let's just keep going. And so the way we just keep going and accelerate and move forward is that we understand that these beings are not evil, no matter what they say. There is no fear-based beings that are here right now trying to take us down. It's not on the earth plane. And if you believe that, then you can have that reality and believe that. But why not choose to believe, maybe a little bit of a more bright kind of perspective, but whatever, choose what you want to choose. But if we can sort of bring awareness to this and light to this, then we can literally pull ourselves past the timeline that to me is a waste of time, which is like, I really don't want to go down this divide. I don't want to talk about I don't want a false flag to happen. I don't want it's such a, let's not, please. So discernment, what does discernment mean? How do we discern? How do we know? Because if you don't know yet, you're going to listen to other people, right? So
also, if you want something to be true, can also be dangerous. Like, for example, if we take the monoliths, and I don't know what those are all about. From what I heard, my first thing when somebody told me that was, well, did they check what metal it was made out of? Because if it was ETs, if it was something from off planet, they would make it very apparent and make it from a metal that we don't have here on Earth, like their crafts are. And from what I saw, but I don't know if it's true, I heard that they were made of stainless steel. So I can't confirm that because I haven't tested them myself. The only thing I will say is, again, with discernment that you said, many of us want certain things to be true. And we're in a really critical time period right now, because there may be things thrown at us that are maybe even done on purpose for all of people in this community, at least, to be like, you see, ETs are here. And if we just jump on that opportunity to want something to be true and say it's true without really thinking critically about it, and it's proven not, we got a problem, because we just furthered their agenda. So we have to think critically of, how do we move forward? Everything. No, I don't care if somebody shows you a video of an ET. Don't believe it off the first thing you see because you want to believe it. Look into it yourself, figure it out, see the loose ends. So when you do come with that powerful, look at this, nobody can say it's not true. And on the other hand, if somebody that isn't really in alignment with this idea comes and says, anything, take the monoliths, if somebody from the community that's in alignment with this says, no, maybe not actually, then that just gives you more credit, because we would have wanted that to be true. And you still thought critically to say, wait, it would have been amazing if that was true, but maybe it isn't. It gives us a lot more credit, and we have to do that.
It's such a shit show. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like an absolute shit show, because like, I mean, which is a good shit show, but we're walking into chaos, but beautiful chaos. Because here's what my guides told. Here's when I knew, when the monoliths came, that's when I knew we're in for a ride.
Yeah.
Because my guide said to me, they're not from us. We first of all, if we put something there, we're not going to put it there, take it away, put it there, take it away. Why are we putting it there in the first place? Like, so they wouldn't do that. It doesn't make sense to them. That doesn't make sense to them. It's almost like they're playing games with us, like, hey, we're here, and no, we're going to leave and do something else. And
could have just been artists,
It could have been artists. I don't know what it was. They didn't tell me what it was. All they said was, it wasn't higher dimensional light beings that dropped that there. And this is why we need you to pay attention, because there is an agenda being created right now. There is an agenda being created right now. And so watch that agenda, prepare for that agenda, and then continue to understand that they are coming. They are coming. They are coming. They're already here, right? TLS is already here. There's going to be a now moment where TLS is going to merge, perhaps, I don't know, maybe not. I won't talk about that. But these beings are going to eventually merge with us. They're going to become united with us in whatever way they do, in whatever time frame they do. And the powers that be that many of us on this call are aware of, that is the last thing they want. They do not want us to connect with these beings in a very physical, real way. So I ask you, I'm going to ask the question. I'm asking you, Jason, but I'll ask everyone. If you know that there are people in charge of our media, okay, and you know that there is a suppression that is happening based on fear through the media, and you know that if once we start connecting to these higher dimensional light beings, we are, and they know this, we're going to skyrocket our consciousness. Why would they be telling us about it? Why would they be informing us about it? They want us to stay home right now when there's a 99.9% chance of survival of this COVID. They want us to stay home. So you're telling me that they want us to be aware of these ETs that are going to advance our information and knowledge? It's just something to think. We have to start critically thinking about the manipulation and mind control, and the fact that no matter what happens, we are having contact with these beings, with the beings that you talk about, with the beings that I talk about. It's an absolute.
Percent. We always have, by the way. It's not, they didn't come in the 1900s. They've been here for thousands of years. They were here as probably before then also, but in terms of history, with the pyramids also, it depends what history you listen to. If you're reading a textbook in school, or if you're reading other scriptures, ancient scriptures with drawings from those periods of time, which one sounds more credible? The people that were there, the people that write about what happened 3,000 years ago.
Well, the other crazy thing about 5,000 or 6,000 years ago, which is why, like, well, whatever. Okay, so 5,000 or 6,000 years ago, 5,000 or 6,000, 7,000 years ago, I mean, time is irrelevant, but back then, higher dimensional light beings that I know of, and I think the beings that you connect with came down as well, or came in and were on the earth plane as well. But the higher dimensional light beings, the really high frequency, the Galactic Federation of Light, the Pleiadians, the Sirians, the Lyrians, they came down. That's how Machu Picchu was made. That's how a lot of these civilizations were created. They were created with higher dimensional light beings.
That's how the pyramids were created.
Yeah.
Speaking of high vibration.
Yeah. So there was a human interaction with these higher dimensional light beings at that time for the sole purpose of evolving the human collective's consciousness. Mm-hmm. And based on certain things that happened, which, we have a little bit of differing opinion about what happened. But based on what happened, that was sort of put on hold, so to speak. Consciousness was brought down a little bit.
Mm.
And here we are again, 6,000 years later, about to enter into that same phase where they're going to come in and we're going to play.
By the way, I agree with you completely in terms of, and also for anybody who read the Pyramid Code, it literally says what you said. It said they came down here with the prime purpose of elevating us. And few things happened. It didn't end up going the good way. It ended up going as they, instead of them bringing us up, we brought them down, or the beings at the time brought them down to a lower vibrational state of being. And this is just my opinion, but I think the reason why all of this is coming out now, I think the reason why documents like the Pyramid Code came out now, I think the reason why TLS may have, and this is my opinion, this is not what I was told. I think the reason why they are coming out now and deciding to expose themselves is because we're at that period all over again. We're right there.
Well, we're actually higher in terms of the frequency we're holding. We're actually at a higher frequency now, both collectively and planetarily. So the planet and the human collective is actually at a higher frequency than we were 6,000, 7,000 years ago when we were ready to receive them again. But because of the kind of chaotic experience that was had when the human engaged with the light beings and the physicality of that, they're not going to have that happen again this way. That's why it's much more of a gentle process that's being brought in. It's not as abrupt because they learned from the past, right? So it's like, okay, we're not going to do it the same way. But now, Jason, now they have to deal with these nefarious New World Order beings, humans, that are in control of the human. So now they're having to battle not just how they're going to enter an experience with us, but also the way we are mind controlled, which, by the way, is massive.
You know, people, I've had a question asked a few times over the past few days, something along the idea of, well, if they're here, then why does our world still look like this? You know, then if they're here and they have such high technology, then why do we still look like this? Why is Earth still the way it is with all where is their positive impact on us? And the same question, by the way, was asked when I came out with TLS. When I came out and was able to reveal all of that information, everybody said, well, if TLS exists, then why would our world look like this? Why wouldn't they just take down the evil and help us? And we've said this before, and I'll say it again because it's important. Nobody else is responsible for humanity other than humanity. We are responsible for ourselves. However, if you look at recent history, after nuclear bombs were dropped in Japan, there was something that started happening. UFO sightings went on the rise. And not only that, you go to nuclear missile bases, every time there was any sort of unidentified flying object in that area, the nuclear missile bases were shut down. They didn't understand how they interacted with their missiles to shut them down. So let's ask the question again. If we're talking about evil beings that are here to come and kill us, why would they shut down nuclear weapons that stop us from killing each other?
Right.
Maybe there's another narrative over here. I know Hollywood put it out the opposite, just like it's always happened, where aliens are bad, they're here to kill. You know, we're being indoctrinated and brainwashed. But listen, if you look at history, there's never been a UFO attack. There's never been an alien coming to kill somebody. It hasn't happened. And for those who want to bring up the fact that there are people with experiences of evil beings, I want to share an analogy that was shared with me from a good friend of mine. He said, let's say you go to the dentist, and you don't know that the dentist is the dentist. You don't know how the dentist works. If you were asleep and they put you under and you woke up with a drill in your mouth and blood and everything going on like what we do in the dentist's office, not knowing what he was doing, you would think that he's probably some sort of psychopathic serial killer that's trying to kill you through your mouth. That's probably what it would look like. But we know that he's a dentist and that's his job. So
it's perspective.
It's perspective. It's through the lens of experience. Sometimes we can receive something as an evil experience on a first hand, and really it wasn't evil. We're just, certain things are foreign to us, so we get scared. It's an instinct. It's all good. But there's never been an experience of ETs coming and shooting down buildings. There's never been an experience of them taking people out. It hasn't happened.
And I think that the fear that people do have is based on experiences with beings that are energetic beings, maybe physical a little bit, but energetic beings that they couldn't comprehend from their mind, personality, ego, and weren't necessarily what we would consider bad or evil, but they were doing things that we would look at from a third dimensional perspective as bad or evil. But when you step out of a third dimensional perspective, it it is just consciousness experiencing itself and doing its thing. Now, those beings that came in and did those things that I believe happened, like the abductions and the hybridization program and all that I do believe happened, that those are gone. They're gone. There are no races on the earth plane in this now moment infiltrating human bodies. It's gone from what I've been told. Now that's just what I've been told, and there's a million different other truths and experiences that people have had, are having, whatever that may be. Mm. But I think what's important is that we start to choose the reality we want. We start to choose the reality we want. I have people coming to me all the time saying, if I open up my channel, if I start to talk to these beings, are dark beings going to come in? Am I going to be infiltrated with dark beings? And I always say the same thing. What do you want? Do you want that? Like, we have got to start to understand that we are choosing the reality in every now moment. We are choosing it.
That's part of the power of thought. Just like they operate craft, just like they're used in with actions like levitation, they're also used in creating your reality. That's a very big aspect that, by the way, we were also told is impossible. All of these things, we were told it's impossible. We were told it only happens in movies. We were told there was a point where lefties were called the servants of the devil. And people believe that to such a large extent that teachers, I think this happened like 200-300 years ago, maybe even sooner, but teachers would take rulers and hit their students, on any students who were writing with their left hands. Now, if you go one step deeper, whatever hand you write with, the opposite hemisphere of your brain is what your dominant hemisphere is, which means a lefty is right brain dominant. The right brain is where a lot of these activations happen. It's where a lot of these supernatural, if you want to call it, which aren't supernatural, they're very natural, but it's where these supernatural abilities exist. That's where the access is. A lot of it is right brain dominant. And if you look at our world today, it's all about left brain dominant, keeping us in fear, keeping us suppressed, keeping us in control, keeping us believing that our true nature is something that's supernatural when it isn't. It's like when you look at a bird. Birds, when they migrate, are able to know 500 miles ahead that there's a hurricane, and they change their pattern. They don't have navigation. They don't have high technology. They have them and what I would call their spiritual organs and their sensory perception that's very wide. On the other hand, if a human were able to do that, it would be called supernatural, and it isn't. We've just been suppressed. Our food is filled with chlorine and fluoride. Our water is filled with chlorine and fluoride. Our food is laced with chemicals and garbage. Everything is taking us down and down and down.
The vaccines that we've received.
That's the physical side. Now you take, there's a target on both. There's this target on our awareness, our spiritual aspect, our emotional and mental side. There's an aspect to our physical side, and we're being attacked from both. And when we can become aware of that, we can put a stop to it because we let it happen in the first place.
Right. And I think that's why I just want to keep having these types of conversations, because it's like, let's just talk about the pink elephant in the room. Let's talk about the fact that we've been mind controlled and brainwashed and manipulated. And like, why not? Because, the more we can talk about it and not play into it and not buy into it, the faster we're going to be able to navigate out of this. And the faster we'll be able to hold on to the reality that we want to, that we are creating in every now moment. I want to go back really quickly when we were talking about the why they don't come in and help us now. So when I wrote my book, the Galactic Federation of Light wrote the book. It gave me all the information. And they said to me, there are universal laws, so to speak. They don't use the word laws, right? But there are like universal ways, meaning that there's a way in which this is divinely moved through or designed. And they said the only way we will ever interfere with what is happening is if the physical earth plane is going to be destroyed, right? So i.e. the atomic bombs. That is when they came in, and that is when they started to dismantle everything that was happening. And from that point forward, they started dismantling the 5G towers. They started dismantling the chemtrails. They're dismantling everything. So they are helping us. They're just not coming in and doing, well, TLS is doing a lot of work, but they're letting free will reign. They're letting free will happen. You imagine being these higher dimensional beings watching us go through this. And they're not like us, but if I had to watch humanity go through this, I would literally be like at the edge of my seat, like biting my tongue like this, like, oh my God, are they going to make it? Like, what happened? How'd they get through that piece? Like, I would literally be like, oh, gee, OMG, are they going to get this? So there's a lot of help that we're having right now, but there is also a lot that we have to do. And I think that's one of the pieces with TLS as well, is that there's a lot of help that we have on the ground level right now.
Like literally physical. I can give one sort of bigger example. There are certain beings, one of them from one of the planets that I mentioned, called Konom. They're little, they're about 3 feet tall. Again, there are others who look like us. These specific ones are roughly 3 feet tall, somewhat like you would see in movies in terms of like their skin, dolphin looking skin, moist, damp, shiny. There's a lot of amazing things in terms of how they live and all that. But there's one who I know about, who they literally trained him how to be a human over a period of time. It took over a year. They first introduced human food. They teach him the language, teach him culture. And over time, he assimilates into humanity. The only thing is, okay, well, how doesn't he look like a 3-foot dolphin, pretty much, because that's what it is. Not a dolphin, but you know what I mean. These beings, and I'll speak more in depth about them in a different video, but these beings hold this, it's like a very high vibrational sort of energy radiation, if you want to call it, that they use for healing. They also have the ability, and I don't know how this works, but they have the ability to sort of change their shape, but it's not shape shifting. They do it through this process of becoming a hologram, I guess more so changing their density and coming into a different density. And now, he looks like a human being. He works with TLS, and he still retains his abilities that he has as his being. He's still him. It's still his consciousness. But if you and I were walking on the street, we would see him as a normal man, just another human.
But it took a year for him to transition from...
the exact timeline of how long it took.
But he had to transition.
But he had to transition. He was taught. Again, he comes from a place where they don't eat fruits or vegetables. There's a specific herb. It's like a concoction of herbs that they have on their planet. That's their water and their food. They don't urinate. They don't defecate. Everything is coming through their skin. And what's interesting is that they don't smell. That tells you how clean their food is. But that's a different.
Can I ask a question about TLS?
Sure.
What is the purpose of TLS?
Their mission, overall grand mission, and this will be a perfect transition into why these ETs are here big picture, to kind of bring it full circle. TLS is here to assist and guide humanity in reaching a higher level of awareness, specifically fifth dimensional awareness, what they would refer to as gamma. That's what they call it. Different dimensional awareness. Gamma is referred to as fifth dimensional awareness. Another name they would give is the age of love. So it's a different world. It's a world that really looks like the life of these ETs that are living on different planets today, that don't have war, that don't have disease as we know it. They don't have cancer and diabetes and all that. It's not a thing. To segue from that, part of the reason, if not, I would even say part of the biggest reasons why these extraterrestrials are here is, yes, to assimilate into humanity. And by the way, it's not just ETs that come here. There are humans that go there as well. There's constant communication, specifically between those three races that I know of. And the goal is not just unity on this planet. It's intergalactic unity. It's it's not a Delta airplane that takes you from New York to California anymore. There's intergalactic travel with technology that's foreign to us completely, that in many ways would wipe out a lot of sort of what are they called, like fields, industries today, which may be a reason why certain people are holding it back as well in terms of the other side and stopping it, just like they do with many other things.
Right, of course. Free energy, right? Free, I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot that, yeah.
Yes, and that's how they work. There's no oil, there's no gas. That's not how it is. They're here to they're in alignment with TLS. They're part of TLS, and that's why they do what they do. So there's many ways that they do it. There's many sort of subliminal sort of influences that they have on humanity that might not be apparent. But listen, I think the fact that we're speaking about this live right now, I'm able to bring those names and talk about them and tell you how they look and what they eat and what their planet looks like and their technology. It's a big step forward, you know, it's a step in the right direction of disclosure.
It's a massive, it's massive.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I would even say it's very hopeful for an amazing future of all life, not just humanity. And the last thing I want to add is, you brought up the whole New World Order thing. And when it comes to New World Order, it's a terrible thing in the world that we live in today, where there's one government controlling everything and no countries, and we're all controlled and suppressed. It's bad because we're in resonance with corruption and war and greed and all that. But if you go to these other planets, they don't have countries. There's no citizens of your country. There's no borders. There's none of that. But there also isn't any control or suppression. It's completely free and united. So in a different consciousness, in a different world for humanity, when we shift consciousness, there will be a different order by which this world exists on. You know, there will be a new world order, not the way that we're speaking about now in terms of the negative aspect of it. But when we shift, we will not see a need to divide by country, because we see it's the same land. You know, we're all one. And beyond just being earthlings or citizens of our planet, we're really beings of the universe. That's how these extraterrestrials live. It's not about land and this is mine and this is yours. It's foreign concepts to them. So I hope that we see a change, a new order in the world today for the better, not in the way that we see it today, because that triggers a lot of people. New World Order, all of that, it's a trigger when you hear it. But there is a different order by which these ETs live by, and I do think we're going to get there sooner rather than later. That's why this is happening.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that when we're there, or when we're, you know, stepping into that space, New World Order isn't what we're going to call it, because it's not an order of any type. So it's a beingness. So it's New World Being, one world being, one world being. I don't know, but new. It's nothing new. It's nothing. It's a world beingness. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we have to go through what we're going through. We have to. It's just exciting to me that we can start to really dissect and talk about this in a way that is tangible and real. And what I love so much about you and I's connection is that that there's two different perspectives, and that they're the same perspective, but they're from two different perspectives. So yours is really physical, and you know, these are physical beings that are here now, and mine is much higher dimensional beings. And there will be a now moment that we're all going to be reuniting with them, but it's going to be a very gentle process. And it's really, you know, I really encourage all of us to not, let's learn from COVID, please. That we don't finger point and belittle and divide what is unraveling. Can we please try to hold it all and let it all unfold? But remember that if it's a digestion of fear, if you are starting to take a bite of fear, that is not the direction and the consciousness that we or these beings are moving us into. These beings are never, ever, ever going to create a bite of fear for you to eat. So if that is being created, or if that is somehow what comes down the pipe, recognize where it's actually coming from. And if there is a divide that is being created, is there some other puppeteers that are creating that divide? Because what happens when we create divide, right? Like, and you said this earlier, I was like, why is there even a divide being created? And you said, when truth comes out, a divide happens.
Because oppression, because our root right now in the world we live in is to keep us somewhere. And if something is ever revealed that's not here but here, there will always be a divide, because there's two aspects to what's pulling us down. There's the elite, if you want to call them, that wants to keep us here. And there's the people that are here that don't want to believe anything else because they don't want to shatter their foundation.
Yeah.
And
right.
You know, and because of that, by the way, when it comes to the whole divide thing, I would really encourage, and I try to remind myself of this all the time, because I'm a human, and I mean, we do human things, you know. But whenever that divide comes, whenever there's somebody that disagrees with what you're saying or doesn't want to believe what you're saying, it's okay. Listen, none of us know it all. Nobody knows it all. We all have our perspectives, and we might want to call it the truth. We can call it our truth. And even if you do want to call it the truth and the objective truth, it's okay if somebody doesn't want to see it. It's okay if they're not there, or if they're somewhere else. What would make that divide or that gap wider is by people that consider themselves awake to further put down the people that they consider asleep. That's what would make this divide bigger. So if there's one thing that we can do to try and bridge the gap, let's not make it worse. Let's accept, you know, let's be good with however anybody wants to take something. Don't try to persuade. You give your experience, you give your truth, and it's all good. What happens from there happens from there. Just do what you can to make this world a better place in whatever way that is for you.
God, can we do this? I mean, listen, you guys, this is just one of like a handful of, you know, realities that are going to start to be seen by us. You know, ETs are going to be, they're just another one of the, I don't even know if it's a reality, but it's another one of the new ways of being that we're going to be in.
It's happening.
And so you look at how we dealt with COVID. We're still dealing with it, right? And we're like, dude, we messed that one up big time, right? Like, holy shit, that got dirty, right? So now we're going to have another one. I don't know, ETs, maybe it's, you know, human trafficking, maybe it is, you know, political systems. I don't know what it's going to be, but can we maybe not have it as dirty as, you know, can we not get as dirty as what we did in COVID? Meaning, can we not create such a divide, so much anger, so much hatred, so much bullying, so much finger pointing? Because when we are divided as a humanity against, then we have so much more ability to shift this when we're together doing it.
Yep. Everything you said, I agree with. No, it's true. If all united, we fly.
So what's our I mean, listen, this is just the tip of the iceberg with these beings, right?
We could do this deep. We could talk about that, because this goes for a long time. You know, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of awareness to be had. But I would say that if you took anything from this on my end, critical thinking, beware of what might happen, not out of fear, but for the better. Because right now, just like anytime we have the potential to fall, we also have the potential to fly. That's just the balance of how things work. And there's coming a point, in my opinion, and I think in Lori's opinion, that there's coming a point where there might be certain things that are happening that can completely throw us off track. But those same things, if they have the abilities to throw us off track, if we deal with them in a guided way and in a way with critical thought involved and discernment involved, then we can also use those opportunities to even to solidify our track even further and go into that brighter future of a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of awareness, and so on.
Yeah, and also just know that you guys are going to see them, and we're all going to see them at some point in another now moment. It just might be 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 1 year, who knows how many years. We have to be ready. They are not going to show themselves until we are ready on an energetic level, on a spiritual, on an emotional level, on a mental level. Like our everything has to be lined up for us to be able to really begin to engage with them.
And on a collective level.
And a collective level.
There might be many of us who are individually ready to have this in public, to have this as a collective experience. We have to be collectively ready.
Because they're not going to do anything that's going to be based on what happened 7,000 years ago, whatever. They're not going to do anything that's going to harm humanity. So they are not going to come in and do any, that's why those monoliths were kind of a joke, because they're not going to do anything that's going to create any divide or chaos. So they're going to, they're waiting for humanity. But it's not a matter of if. Right? It's just a win. And if you're individually wanting to kind of connect or experience them, I mean, I always say this, but they're right here. It's just energetically, or they're in body and you're walking right past them and you just have no idea.
An alien, you wouldn't know. Just like your mother could be a part of TLS and you would have no idea.
Right. Jason's an alien.
Alrighty, this was fun. I had a really good time.
I had a really fabulous time. Are we done? Are we?
I think you want to keep going. Anything?
No.
Yes. I think we covered a big picture, something that's digestible, absorbable. I will be making a separate video regarding those 3 races that we kind of gave an introduction to more in depth. I think there's just a lot of interesting things when it comes to them. Lori knows because we spoke about them in depth, but yeah, just in their food, their technology, their planet, certain issues that they feel.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Any other?
It's so exciting to begin doing this and to talk about this and to just start making it very normal, very real, and that you don't have to be any sort of spectacular special person, that there's nothing unique about this.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thanks for coming on. I love you so much.
Love you so much.
Grateful to be here with everyone.
I had a really good time.
I had a really good time. It went by really fast, but time always goes by fast.
Yes.
All right, you guys, we love you. Thank you for being here with us. This will be uploaded on both of our YouTube channels, as well as my Instagram. So, and I'm sure we'll be doing this again, diving deeper into other topics. Yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Alrighty.